An all-night and early morning air and sea search in deteriorating weather conditions was unable to find any trace of the missing boat or its crewmen.
There's a gale warning current, wind easterly 30 to 40 knots at times, seas 3 to 4 metres with a swell of 4 to 5 metres.
Another yacht caught out in the blow headed for the safety of port. Nelson Bay Water Police received a flood of distress calls just on 6 last night. Among them one from the Alibi, a 5.7 metre trailer sailor with a Katoomba and Sydney man on board. It's thought to have left Nelson Bay late yesterday, headed for Broughton Island, 16 kilometres to the north. Its message stated, "We need help too. We're between Cabbage Tree and Broughton Islands." Nothing more was heard. With its sails unmanageable and an outboard motor unable to make headway, the boat was pushed south. Just after midnight, it hit rocks off the outer light, near where another yacht was wrecked on Friday night. One crewman wearing a life jacket was washed ashore. The other, a 45-year-old Katoomba man, wasn't seen again. 25-year-old Philip Garland sheltered on the island before setting out to cross the sandspit to Fingal Bay at daybreak. He was met by 3 joggers.
We waited till he made sure he got across okay and asked him what had happened. And he said that, look, he'd lost his boat and his mate as well. He doesn't know where his mate was. He was wearing a life jacket at the time, and when asked about his mate, he said no, his mate didn't have a life jacket on. He seemed a little bit confused, but okay physically.
Suffering hypothermia, he was taken to the Port Stephens Polyclinic and later picked up by relatives. Police hold little hope of finding his missing companion alive. Andrew Lobb for NBN News. First up, dodging rain squalls, the chopper searched along the rough coastline off Fingal Bay for any sign of the missing 5.7 metre yacht Alibi and its skipper. Anxious friends with rescue equipment arrived from the Blue Mountains to mount their own search, using another helicopter and centering their efforts on the outer island where the boat sank.
They're going to try and cover the whole island all around the outside as far as they can to see if there's any sign of their friend.
The Royal Volunteer Coastal Patrol has been monitoring the operation, warning other mariners of worsening weather conditions. With the blow making its presence felt at the bay, most decided to wait it out in port. At least 4 other yachts chanced the rough seas and adverse forecasts and sailed through the heads. Authorities say it's unlikely Mr Bucknell Lester survived the sinking.
This bloke went over the side without a life belt. The guy that was saved had a life belt. So we usually say that if you haven't got a life belt for a start, you've got less chance of getting saved than a guy with a belt. There were no lifelines, as far as we know, so his chances are pretty slim.
Scattered wreckage washed onto rocks on the outer island and thought to be from the Alibi was spotted from the Lifesaver helicopter.
The Lifesaver rescue helicopter from Newcastle sighted some debris and a life jacket. We believe the debris sighted is part of the cabin.
Scallops are a familiar sight locally on restaurant menus or from their shells washed up on beaches, but they're not commercially harvested here. The fishing industry south of Jervis Bay in Victoria and Tasmania depend on scallops, but the supplies have been drying up. Popular in Australia and for their export value, scallops are dredged from the seabed by trawlers. Biologists claim this process upsets the underwater environment, destroying future harvests. A natural parasite also affects the reproductive organs of adult scallops, wiping out future generations. These specimens were collected at Jervis Bay and now live in laboratory conditions. Scallops spawn millions of offspring each year. The microscopic spat are collected and along with their parents are fed a cultured diet of algae. Dr Mike Heisman is in charge of a 3-year project costing $300,000 and has high hopes for its success.
If we develop this technology to the point where our production of seed scallops is efficient and our costs are kept low, then yes, certainly we have the technical base then to either farm or to enhance natural fisheries.
In the past 5 years, Shortland Electricity has trimmed 650 jobs, with most of those coming from the blue-collar and clerical sections. But in this latest restructuring plan, management has been targeted.
It's anticipated that there will be some 61 positions overall surplus to requirements.
Although the plan won't be fully implemented until September, 5 senior positions have this week been made redundant by the new management structure. The 5 whose positions have disappeared have been offered a voluntary redundancy package, or if they choose to stay, another placing. They've been given leave until the end of next week to decide their future. The General Manager of Shortland Electricity, Warren Elliott, asserts he can't guarantee that those who choose to stay will get jobs equal to their former positions. But Chairman Dennis Nichols says it's Shortland Electricity policy that no one gets sacked.
There will be no forced redundancies. Those people that wish to leave will be negotiated a voluntary redundancy package.
One member of the engineering section says the staff is relieved there will be no forced retrenchments. However, there is fear and uncertainty about exactly what kinds of jobs will be offered to those who don't take voluntary redundancy packages. Despite staff concerns, Alderman Nichols says the changes were necessary to make Shortland Electricity less top-heavy and more efficient.
It is now time to look at the ongoing efficiency of the operation and the management level, and our management structure certainly needed to be overhauled.
Scott Bevan, NBN News.
Women are underrepresented in the New South Wales Police Force by a ratio of about 1 to every 16 male officers. It's a better figure than in past years, but it's still well below the department's target figure of 25%. Police admit they may never reach that target because women aren't that interested in a career with the force, but they want to ensure that women who do join aren't the victims of sexual harassment. Commissioner Tony Lau lashed out at a growing incidence of harassment in the force, promising yesterday to dismiss officers who broke the rules and allowing for huge fines. Newcastle Police say the incidence of local complaints is well below the state figure, but Chief Superintendent Russ Cook says he won't tolerate breaches.
What we're trying to do is make sure that we keep it down to a minimum, and it is treated seriously by the police department.
Police have now introduced a formal complaint system with the creation of a new post, a sexual harassment support officer.
With more police women joining the police force, that there's a need for the girls to be confident about the fact that when they come to work that they're there to perform the same duty as the guys, and also for us all to be a little bit more sensitive.
But there is the other side of the coin.
And we tend to look at it as sexual harassment of our girls, whereas in effect it can work the other way. And it's not as prevalent, but it can happen.
Sydney has recorded its highest daily June rainfall in 7 years, and there's no relief in sight until Thursday. No comfort to people already forced from their homes by high water. In Newcastle, the rain not such a problem, but it did cause the Tattersalls Club in Watt Street to lose business when water caused a fire in the electric switchboard. Prime Minister Hawke has started a 2-year campaign for the 1993 federal election. In Brisbane today, he nominated as the battleground the opposition's proposed broad-based consumption tax. In state politics, Newcastle Trades Hall has slammed the Greiner government as dishonest for failing to declare its hand on changes to sick leave provisions before the recent election. And a pageant in London to celebrate the 70th birthday of the Duke of Edinburgh. Around 8 o'clock tonight, the man, described as skinny, aged about 25, and wearing a dark balaclava, blue jeans and brown work boots, entered the club and asked for the day's takings. He reinforced his demand by pointing a rifle at staff and producing a blue bag to collect the contents of the safe, reported to be around $200. The man then made off towards the nearby Stockland Mall shopping centre car park and has not been seen since, despite an intensive search of the area by police.
Each is a winner selected from competitions conducted by Charlestown Square and the Lake Macquarie City Council over the past 5 years. Acquired by the council, it's the first time they've been shown as a single collection. Styles and mediums vary from oils to chalk drawings on mostly figurative rather than abstract subject matter. There are valuable untitled works by Ken Unsworth and Lindy Lee. The gallery's curator, Pamela Laycock, suggests people should look for the message in paintings such as Janet Lawrence's Weary of Time.
Janet's was trying to tell us that the landscape is a valuable asset for us, but at this stage she was worried about certain polluting elements and she was feeling the landscape was being lost to us. And so the work here has transparent elements that you can see through.
Local photographers capture familiar and still life scenes. They've been chosen from a storehouse of talent in the Hunter. The exhibition continues for the next 2 weeks.
Police allege the two youths first struck at the wholesale liquor store at Lambton just before closing on May 9. The attendant was held at knife point while a cash register was ransacked. Police say the pair next robbed a service station at Sandgate where a spear gun was used to intimidate staff. A second spear gun attack at another service station in Sandgate was reported just under a month later. Last night, patrons and staff at the Heaton Birmingham Gardens Bowling Club were held up at gunpoint by a balaclava-clad man carrying a .22 rifle with a telescopic sight. The man ordered an employee to open a safe before escaping with a quantity of cash. Police say both 17-year-olds have been granted conditional bail to appear at Warramai Children's Court on a later date.
These people are not professionals. They go to the gym or an aerobics class probably once or twice a week, mostly after work, but they take their exercise very seriously. The championships are an indication of how popular working out and pumping iron has become. Almost 100 body-toned enthusiasts competed in aerobics, men's and women's body sculpturing and men's bodybuilding. In the aerobics, Margaret Smith took out the over 40s and her daughter Heidi the overall event. Men's champion was Brian Doyle. Danielle Duffy was victorious in the ladies' body sculpturing, while Terry Ford claimed the men's title. Leon Walker flexed his way to the top in the men's bodybuilding.
This was the Fang 2 the morning after it ran aground under the outer Port Stephens lighthouse off Fingal Bay. The two crewmen were winched to safety by helicopter. This is all that's left of the 12-metre, $130,000 fiberglass yacht. Wild seas over the Queen's birthday holiday weekend hammered the boat into the rocks, smashing its hull to pieces, flattening sections of its aluminium mast, twisting and buckling stainless steel fittings. A salvage crew working at low tide with the boat's owner, 57-year-old George Patterson from Sydney, used a chainsaw to retrieve its motor, some rigging and sails. The boat was uninsured. Extensive air, land and sea searches for missing sailor George Bucknell Lester of Katoomba, last seen when his small trailer sailor foundered off the island more than a week ago, have been called off. Andrew Lobb reporting for NBN News. "100 players teed off, the only qualifications for this tournament being an interest in the game and trading up to one of these. Hosted by the local BMW dealership, golfers tried to steer their way toward national playoffs to be held at the Royal Pines course in Queensland next August. From there, there's a chance to take on the world's best BMW driving golfers at a tournament in Spain. Play was over 18 holes, with an added purse of $1,000 for the best assistant professional golfer in a category of their own. After trundling around the fairways in one of these all day, by the time they reached the 19th hole, some of the golfers may have been ready to slip into one of these. The scenes that confronted RSPCA Inspector Derek Pickering when he went to the property near Muswellbrook last weekend were harrowing. Emaciated, starving cattle, some with eye cancer, one with horns growing into its head. 22 had to be shot and were buried in this large makeshift grave. The property owner, a 61-year-old man from Taree, was not there at the weekend. But on Monday he travelled from Taree to the farm, where he was questioned about the shocking state of his cattle by the RSPCA inspector.
He has indicated that he has been here and in recent times, and he has stated that he was aware of the condition of certain stock that were here.
The man was arrested and taken to Muswellbrook Police Station, where he was charged with 2 counts of aggravated cruelty and 1 of failing to supervise animals. He's to appear in Muswellbrook Local Court on July the 4th.
The Accident Investigation Squad report was submitted to a coroner's inquest at Southport today. 11 people from Newcastle and Sydney were killed when a tourist coach plunged down an embankment in the Gold Coast hinterland last September while taking elderly holidaymakers on a sightseeing day trip. The report also said that a faulty rear tyre and inadequate signposting may have contributed to the tragedy. Alison Peters, NBN News.
James Bullock, the big offensive rebound. Hinchin gets it, 2-on-1. Hinchin will go all the way himself. Oh, hammered there by Kruger. And Vince Hinchin has every right to be filthy.
That one there was
sportsmanship, and I just don't think that was called for.
Right at the death. Get this. It's a disqualifying foul intentional, so what is it? It's just 2 shots.
They're just working the clock down, the Cats. Clock takes on Al Green, tapped away by Al Green. And Locke will go to the line to shoot a couple with 1:27 left.